Alright, hello everyone and welcome to AEW Discussion. I'm hosting AEW DJ Snuggy Doug. In today's episode I'm going to be discussing Dynamite February 7, 2024 edition. In this edition of Dynamite announced what the world title match at Revolution will be. And yes, it was the one that we all predicted, the triple threat match, Samoa Joe defending against Hangman, Adam Page, and Swerve Strickland. And the big match for this show was the tag team match, or tag team title match, with Ricky Starks and Big Bill defending against Sting and Darby Allin. And well, congrats to Sting on getting his first and only title in AEW, but I will say it was earned. And with that, we'll go ahead and get right into the action of the show, starting with not too far there we go. Swerve Strickland versus Hangman Adam Page. And unlike previous encounters, they approached this one a bit slower at first. They locked up, made a couple of clean breaks before Page took the first shot to initiate a brawl that would bring him out of the ring. Now this was different than their previous matches. Instead of having the focus be on blood and brutality, they were attempting to make this closer to a traditional match, which is what it was. It was a traditional one-on-one match, and now, granted, to their credit, they still did plenty of violent things, but it was a bit more of a controlled chaos rather than what the Texas Death Match was, which was just all over the place chaos. They each had a handful of standout moments, but Strickland may have had a couple more. He really shined in this match. The crowd started off with a "This is awesome" chant. The bout had some callbacks to previous performances, some exciting spots and plenty of crowd participation. Both men tried multiple times to get the win, but the bell rang just before Strickland could get the pin, and in the match in a time limit draw. Crowd booed a decision. Understandable, but I mean, that was really the only way this match was going to end. Swerve grabbed the mic, wanted 5 more minutes. Page said no, and then Tony Schiavone stood up and announced that Tony Khan has booked a triple threat match between Samoa Joe, Page, and Swerve for the AEW World Title Revolution. Hangman looks like he's turning over to the bad guy side. At least that's what his actions here would suggest. Overall, this was all well done and was the right booking decision to get the most longevity out of this feud. BCC versus CMLL, and the feud between AEW and CMLL continues on here. And despite this bout being a total clash of styles, all 6 men did a good job playing to their strengths while building little individual stories within the match. Castiglione ended up resorting to a low blow to get the win, which brought about the ire and a confrontation from a couple other luchadors sitting in the crowd. And just when it looked like BCC was going to be outnumbered, they were joined by a few more members of the AEW locker room to keep it even. No big brawl, but this feud is ongoing. I'm curious to see if there's going to be a big match or what the end game of this is. Nonetheless, I am enjoying seeing these competitors from CMLL. I will admit I don't regularly watch that stuff, so to get an opportunity for these guys to showcase themselves and see what they can do has been pretty fun. It's always fun watching luchadors compete. They are something special. Okay, there we go. Chris Jericho versus Takeshita, and this match had a strange pace to say the least, but it seemed like that was the goal, which would be weird if it was. They told the story they wanted to tell, and there were some good spots in the match, but nothing really was spontaneous until you got to about the end. Guevara showing up to fight Hobbs mid-match instead of at the end might have been misplaced. Perhaps maybe you could have saved that towards the end. And a somewhat surprising outcome, Takeshita would score the win, utilizing Jericho's own submission hold, the Lion Tamer. So big win for Takeshita here, especially getting Jericho to tap out to his own submission hold. And then the main event, we have the Tag Team Championship match, a tornado tag team match, and Sting and Darby win the titles. There was no taking in and out, and there were no countouts, there were no disqualifications. This was a match that was all over the place, both literally and figuratively. The crowd popped for every big spot and cheered whenever Sting and Allin would have the upper hand. Starks removed the turnbuckle as Sting charged in for a splash that caused Sting to hit his chest on the exposed metal. He followed that up with a spear, but still couldn't get the pin. Stinger did nail Starks with the Scorpion Death Drop to get the pin and win. the tag titles, and as Sting and Allen would celebrate in the ring with Sting's sons, in come the Young Bucks, who basically just they beat them up pretty good, and Darby Allin got pretty bloody, and those white suits are now ruined, which makes me wonder what was the point of wearing those white suits in the first place. Questionable fashion choices from Nicholas and Matthew to close out the show, but in case you needed more confirmation, it will be Young Bucks versus Sting and Darby at Revolution in Sting's final match, with the tag titles most likely being on the line, which raises the question of, do Sting and Darby successfully retain those titles and then Sting's career ends on a loss, or do they overcome the Young Bucks? Curious to see how that one plays out. Initial feeling is that it would be Sting going over, but I mean, we got some time until now to figure out how that one's going to play out. In conclusion, Wednesday Dynamite can be definitely labeled as a strong episode, both in terms of the in-ring action and the storyline developments. Ending the show with the last title win in Sting's story career helped make this episode feel special, but the Bucks attacking the new champions right away also helped further that feud that will conclude at Revolution. However, the best match of the night was the one that opened the show, so Irvin Hangman added another great chapter to their ongoing story of a time-limit draw that not only led to a triple threat bout for the AEW title being booked, but also signaled a potential turn for Paige as well as for Strickland. And I think, really, that one kind of is inevitable, especially with Prince Nana by his side, and also the crowd has, Swerve has won over the crowd, genuinely. So yeah, I think the crowd will make him a good guy as well. Jericho putting over Takeshita by letting him use the line to repeat him, huge sign of respect from Jericho. Storm and Purrazzo continue to make their feud entertaining, and the feud between CMLL and AEW could lead to something exciting in the near future. And with that will wrap up this episode of AEW Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button down below.